This tutorial will cover setting up layers, renaming your objects, and creating UVW maps ready for texturing in Unreal Engine. A UVW map controls the scale and rotation of materials when rendering. Firstly, let's make sure our file from the previous tutorial is open and that we are in the perspective view. Next, we are going to set up some layers that we will use over the next couple of steps. These layers will help us keep track of where we're up to with each object. Deselect any objects by clicking on the background in the viewport. In the left-hand panel, make sure that Sort by Layer is selected in the bottom of the layer panel. Also, make sure that you can see all the options at the top of the layer panel. To check, drag the panel out to increase the width so that all options are visible. To create a layer, click on the New Layer button at the top of the layer panel. It should be the little layer stack with an orange circle. Call this layer Step 1 UVW. Now create one more layer and call this one Step 2 Unwrapped. Now click on the light bulbs next to the two layers to turn them off. Now we will start renaming and UVW mapping the objects. You can do this multiple objects at a time or one at a time. However, make sure that when unwrapping multiple objects that they are all the same type of object, such as all windows or all louvers, objects that will have the same material applied to them. I'm going to start with the windows in my model. We're going to use Control and click to select multiple objects. Remember that the scroll wheel will zoom in and out, and you can orbit by holding Alt and clicking the middle mouse button. So let's select our two objects by holding Control and clicking both objects. Then we're going to go to Tools, Rename Objects, and the Rename Objects window will appear. We're going to use a base name and a prefix, so make sure they are both ticked. And I'm going to give it a base name of Windows underscore. Then I'm going to give the prefix SM underscore. SM stands for Static Mesh in Unreal Engine. We will also want to number our objects, so make sure that the numbered button is selected at the bottom of the window. Then click Rename. This will change the name of the objects. You can see this by expanding the default layer in the layer panel. And there you can see our two windows have been renamed. Now, with the windows still selected, we're going to go across to the Object Modifiers panel on the right-hand side of the screen. Click on the Modifiers tab at the top, and you should see that it says 2 objects selected, or however many objects you have selected. From the drop-down menu called Modifier List, select UVW Map. You will see a parameters window appear, and that UVW map has been added as a modifier. I'm going to give my object a box map and give it a length, width and height of 1000 by 1000 by 1000. This is so the material will tile every 1 meter. You should see a small orange box that represents this. If your object was a sphere, you could select cylindrical or spherical maps instead. Once this is complete, we'll go back to the layer panel, select the layer stack next to step 1. You may need to minimize default to see it. Make sure that the layer stack next to step 1 is blue, making it the active layer. And then click the plus button to move those objects to the layer. Because these layers are turned off, the objects should disappear from view, and we know that they have been UVW mapped. Let's repeat this with other objects. So let's select the columns, Remember to hold Control while clicking to select multiple objects. You should have the rename box still open. And I'm going to change the base name from Windows to Columns _ and click Rename. Now I'm going to go across to the Modifiers panel, select UVW Map from the Modifiers list, select Box Map, and give it a length, width and height of 1000 by 1000 by 1000. Now we go back across to our Layers panel. Make sure that our layer called Step 1 is still the active layer, and then select Plus to add those objects to the layer. Now we can go through and repeat this process for the rest of the objects in the scene. Once we can no longer see any objects, then we are ready to move on to the next tutorial, which covers unwrapping maps for lighting.